Okay, good morning. Good morning, good morning. It is hump day. Happy hump day. Good morning, Catherine. Good morning, Emma. So great to see you guys here, and to all of you who are joining in the next minute or so, and those of you who are watching the replay. I want to just thank you for being here. Jessica Perez-Beebe, you are in High Performer Lifestyle, or you're watching on YouTube. And let's just jump right in, because yesterday we talked about a topic that really had people fired up, and I was on fire. And so I'm glad it fired you up. And I got lots of messages and emails about my live yesterday. And so what I want to do is now take what we talked about yesterday, right? Take that and just move it into an action that you can do to actually solidify all of that, right? Because here's the thing that often happens, and I often see this with people, right? I often work with people who are driven, who are ambitious, who have been successful in different areas of their life. But listen, I believe this and I know it. I've experienced it myself. I've seen it with clients in my almost 16 years of coaching in several industries, is no matter how ambitious you are, no matter how driven you are, at some point along the way, you often hit a plateau. You hit a plateau either just in general in your overall energy and passion. Maybe you've hit so many goals and now you're kind of like tapped out, or just haven't really plugged into what's next for you. But somehow you've hit a plateau, or you've started to doubt yourself in your abilities in a new area of your life. And so that's common. It happens, but it doesn't have to stay that way. And what I'm going to talk to you about today is going to help you break that pattern, because what I also know about driven, ambitious people like myself is oftentimes when we look at our life and we look at whatever it is that we're wanting to experience a result in, but we've been held back in some way, for some reason we're not hitting it. Typically it's because there is something that we need to let go of. We talked about this yesterday, but I'm going to get really specific, really honest, and really raw about this, because I see it. I'm a professional athlete. I see it in the athletic area. I see it in business, right? I see it everywhere. There's something often that we're holding on to that's typically a secret, right? That is holding us down. It's a chain. It is chaining us. And I don't care how long that chain is, right? I don't care how long it is, meaning you're still able to move around and get some results. And on the outside to everyone else, it looks like you're crushing it, because driven people typically get, the results that other people have to put in so much effort for. Driven, ambitious people typically get those results relatively easy looking to the outside world, and relatively easy, right? But you know that inside you, there's more. You know that inside you, there's just that one thing that is keeping you from going to the next level. So I don't want those of you who watched yesterday's live where, we talked about like letting go of the things that are not serving you and not taking them into the next decade, right? Like I got messages about it. People were like, yes, I needed that. That fired me up. However, don't let it just be a message that fired you up for that day. Allow it to have you open up your mind, ask yourself the questions, okay, what's it going to actually take for me to take that message that got me fired up and actually apply it? What practically do I know I need to do in order to have that become a reality? And that's what today is about. It's about breaking the chains, breaking the chain, like taking out the wire cutters and breaking the chain that is keeping you slow, that is slowing you down, that is draining your energy. That, listen, you're going to have to look here, but I know that intuitively you already know what it is before I even go into this, right? Maybe it surprises you a little bit, but I believe that intuitively you already know what it is. It's something that perhaps is keeping you at a 7 instead of a 10. Even perhaps you're at a 9 instead of a 10. What we're going to do now is create a space in this moment on this live, whether you're watching live or you're watching the replay, where you actually identify it, and in your mind's eye, you break that chain. I want you to actually see yourself taking out the wires, cutting it, and feeling the freedom of letting go, of walking away and no longer being tethered. Right now, you are still tethered to something. I know that I was, right? So I went through this process myself this year. I went through this process literally in the last like 6 weeks. So let's identify some common things that may be tethering you, that may be keeping you chained. Again, no, it might be a short chain, so you're not moving at all, or it could be that you have a long leash, right? A long lead, but still you only get so far, and then what happens? You're still stuck. You're still tethered. So here's a couple things. Are you sleeping in, right? Do you know you're sleeping in too much? I talked about this months ago, and I did a 1 hour awake challenge, 1 more hour awake. And several of you took that challenge. I was just speaking to someone the other day, one of my clients, who talked about how just taking that challenge to set their alarm 5 minutes earlier until they were waking up an hour earlier every day. She was just telling me how that's made a huge difference for her personally and in her business, because now she's getting up at 6 a.m. Huge difference between waking up at 6 a.m. and waking up at 7 a.m. In fact, Ayurveda will tell you that sleeping in actually slows down your energy. It makes you lethargic. It's better to go to sleep early than it is to actually sleep in. So are you sleeping too much, right? Meaning, are you like, let's take it to the next level. Are you sleeping in? Also, are you being lazy? Is that the thing that's tethering you? Do you know you're really being lazy? Look around at your house. Is it messy? Is your room cluttered with stuff, right? Do you have piles of laundry, right? Is your car dirty? I mean, that's a sign to you that you're being tethered. You're hooked to that chain, right? That's not high performer living, you know? So that could be it. Are you drinking too much? Like, I would gather to say most people are probably drinking too much, right? Because it's such an accepted thing in our society to just drink, right? Drink with food, drink when you go out with friends, right? Like, I fell into this. This is something that I had to look at myself and say, wait a minute, why am I drinking this much? Do I really need to have wine with every meal? Do I that's how the common person thinks, right? We're talking about like not being average. Are you guys getting this? So I started, now this might not relate to you, but we're going to go down a list, and one of these things is going to relate to you. I started asking myself, why is it so accepted to just, like drink on a regular basis? And I could do a whole other topic on this. It's not accepted to just do drugs on a regular basis, but I can gather that more people are addicted to alcohol than they are to drugs, right? So like, why am I putting that toxicity into my body? Right? How could that be slowing me down in my fitness, in my business, in my overall energy? So for me, I had to look at that. Could it be that you've got a sugar addiction, right? You're eating too much sugar, and somehow whatever that does, I don't have a sugar addiction, but like I said, I knew that I felt like I was drinking too much. So in the same way that I was able to look at that and say, how could this maybe slowing down my energy, making me lethargic, maybe making me not breathe as well, right? Allergies, whatever like comes up for you with eating too much sugar. Is it like, because think about it, anything that's got your power is slowing you down. Do you get that? Anything that's got your power, whether it's sleeping in, whether it's a cluttered house, whether it's drinking too much alcohol, whether it's eating too much sugar, whether it's fast food, right? You're pulling up through that drive-through, once or twice a week, right? You're eating a bunch of junk food. Here's another one. Does anger have your power? Do you know that you are being tethered to that fence with your chain link, with your chain, right? From yelling, losing your temper, right? If you're a parent, perhaps it's with your kids, perhaps it's with your spouse. That has your power. Maybe being impatient with yourself, being impatient with your kids. This is another area I had to look at with myself. And it's an area I have to constantly check myself on. right? Am I being impatient with my daughter? Typically, when we're impatient with other people, it starts with us, right? We're already impatient with ourselves. We have a certain standard that we are not hitting, and so then we are projecting it out, right? So there are all these things. We could go on and on and on. Procrastination, right? Like not making decisions quickly. Or is that something that's got your power? Right? Whatever it is you need to identify. If you're still watching this, like engage, wake up, connect with what's got your power, and make the decision to leave it here. Leave it in this decade. We talked about this yesterday, so I don't need to go into the fact that you don't want to take sour, dead energy into the next year and into this next decade, right? I don't need to go into that because you can watch yesterday's video for that. But you do need to identify exactly what it is. What is the chain that you get to break, right? What is the chain that you get to break? How can you clear your energy of the baggage of the stuff that's been slowing you down? How can you clear that energy going in with a fresh start, right? And what I want you to connect with, right? Because we're going to break that chain in a minute. Let's go through a process right now. What I want you to connect with is what breaking that chain, that dependence, what regaining your power over that specific thing will mean for you. Like, what will it feel like? What will it feel like when you break that chain and you're no longer controlled by that, by yelling, by being impatient, by food addiction, by sugar addiction, by alcohol addiction, by sleeping in, by being lazy, by being cluttered, by not making decisions? Like, what will it feel like? What will it look like in this new year, in this new decade, as you being this person who's no longer slowed down by the weight of this thing that has had your power? What will that look like? What will it feel like? How will that positively impact your relationships with people, your children, your spouse, right? Your friends, your coworkers? How will that positively impact the energy and the confidence that you show up with in your business or in your work environment or for your fitness, right? I'm not talking about just setting little goals here, you guys. I'm talking about tapping into something inside of yourself and changing your way of being, right? Because just because you've been operating a certain way doesn't mean that's who you are. And so often we get caught up in this cycle of attitude and habit, and then we just say, well, that's just how I am. It's not just how you are, it's how you've been acting, it's how you've been operating. It's a way of being that you can absolutely access and rescript, reshape, remold into that higher aspect of yourself. You can absolutely do it, and you're the only one who has the power to do it, right? So when I started asking myself, right, in different areas of my life, and I'll just use the drinking thing, for example, I was like, wait a minute, how will it feel to like be that, like to be that person who, you know, is out with friends and doesn't have to have a cocktail, right? Because everybody else is having a cocktail. Or, you know, doesn't have to have, you know, a drink to relax, right? Like that's something we tell ourselves. It's not a fact, right? It's not a fact. We start to take in these patterns and we just believe them because other people around them say the same thing, right? And it becomes group think. I'm talking about, how do we not think like the group? How do you move forward and lead the pack with your thinking as opposed to following the pack? Right? The group mentality. So I started seeing for myself, wow, like I bet like I started envisioning inside of my body as an athlete, how actually not having that in my body on a regular basis would have me perform better, would have me recover quicker. Like no matter how you look at it, even though it's not like I'm drinking like an alcoholic, right? It like still to me, it was like, well, it is kind of poison. And just a little bit of poison is still poison, right? Just a little bit of cancer is still cancer. Like why? So this is for me. I'm not putting judgment anywhere. I'm saying that when I started asking myself those questions, I started envisioning, whoa, how will my body operate without this toxicity holding me down, right? How might I breathe better? How might I just be clear-headed? How might that even strengthen my self-control, my resolve, my focus, right? My confidence in myself, my belief in myself in the moments when I'm out and I'm like, no, thank you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that it's bad and that I'll never have a glass of wine with dinner. I'm just saying for me, I realized, whoa, more days out of the week, I'm having wine with dinner than not. And I know from the work that I've done for the past 15 plus years that anything that we start doing automatically without even like realizing it, right? Like without even putting conscious thought to it, like that it becomes a habit, that anything we start doing like that, we better make sure that it's absolutely serving us in so many ways, because it snowballs and it gets stronger and stronger, right? It grows, it grows legs. And so if it's something that even has the potential to slow you down, to fog your brain, to rob your energy, to keep you chained to that fence, then you better make sure that it's something you want. And so for me, I asked myself, and that wasn't something I wanted. And so I started to envision myself, just like I start to see myself on stage as a pro this year. And I started to look at like just little parts of my body. Wow, I bet this will look more supple. This will be hydrated. This part of my body will have less of this. I will be more clear-headed. All because of like the choices I've made of eliminating alcohol and that kind of thing, right? So that's how I looked at it physically from that standpoint. Then the other piece was, how awesome would it be to have more patience with my daughter? And I started envisioning like, wow, just the moments that we look in each other's eyes, or the moments that I just kind of chuckle and let my body just kind of sink, as opposed to puffed out, like, come on, you got to do this, we got to do. What if in those moments I started seeing myself just kind of softening up and just kind of giggling at her and saying, honey, I love how, I appreciate you so much. I know you're not, a quick mover and all of that like I am, but it really helps me to slow down, right? And I started seeing that. I started playing that out in my mind, and it started to feel good, right? So when I say start to fall in love with what breaking these specific chains will mean for you, right? What it will give you, because oftentimes we look at what we have to give up and it's like, oh man, I'm giving something up. But what about if you start looking at what you're gaining? So when I started seeing that I'm gaining energy, that I'm gaining a better physique, that I'm gaining more clarity, that I'm gaining better health, that I'm gaining a deeper relationship with my daughter, that I'm gaining a lower heart rate, right, when I'm not impatient, that I'm gaining like a trust and a confidence, I started seeing like just branches spreading out, like, wow, boom, that improves my marriage. Boom, that improves my relationship with my team when I'm working. Boom, that helps me be more connected and supportive to my clients. Boom, that helps me have the trust and the confidence in my business to take more risks and to invest and to do all these things, right? Like, you just start to see it, connect out, and create positivity for all the areas of your life. So I want you to connect with what that is. And as you get that feeling, like I just did, like right now in my mind's eye, I am breaking the chain. I've already done this, but I want you to do it too. And I'm going to do it again. I am breaking that chain that had my power, that was slowing me down. So I break the drinking too much train, like that chain. I just see like, bam. And you know what? It might have to be a big giant wire cutter. You come out, it's like this big, right? And you've got to break it and pop it. And then just kind of start running around. Like, see how you're no longer tethered to that. You're no longer tethered to sleeping in too much, to drinking too much, to food, to sugar, to yelling, to losing your temper, to being lazy, to making excuses, to blaming other people, to pointing the finger, to gossiping, whatever it is that has your power. It's time to break the chains. Clear your energy, clarify that energy so that as you go into the new decade, it's like You're at the top of the mountain and the world is yours. You have the power to live like this and to think like this and to operate like this. But will you do it? I look forward to seeing what you share in the comments. Be brave enough, like I just did, to share what chains are you breaking, and go through the process and let us know how it feels. Okay, guys, I'll see you tomorrow live at 6:45. Bye.